For the EOS token, exponential operating system. You say it's one of the most valuable cryptocurrencies. It clearly is. But Brendan, I want to get your take on when you raised money. You raised $4 billion worth via an issuance. Did you turn it into fiat? Did you manage to lock in the gains?
Yeah, most of our treasury management is moved to fiat just for conservative treasury. But if you take a look at kind of how we use the token, we actually did a token sale, so it was revenue to the business. You can use tokens through a whole host of different mechanisms. You can do fundraising events, you can use them for invitations, you can use them for just about anything imaginable.
And you mentioned that you've transferred most of that money into fiat. Obviously, one of the questions with all ICOs and the nature of governance is the degree to which holders of the token or anyone else has visibility into what you've done with the money. How do the holders and anyone who's not involved directly with your company see how that money is being held?
Well, as you go forward, you can start to see the things that we're doing with it. We had announced a $1 billion commitment to a program called EOS VC, which is designed to start investing in businesses that are building on the EOS.io protocol. If you take a look at how other tokens or other networks create their tokens, a lot of it was done through proof of work, which is spending lots of money on electricity that ultimately gets burnt, contributes to a lot of environmental negativity. And what we were able to do is capture that value that other networks are unable to do with, and then we actually deploy it into developers that are building on the protocol itself. So we structured it very similarly to proof of work networks outside of the fact that we were able to capture a lot of that value opposed to it getting burnt.
So $4 billion you raised, $1 billion you said will be invested into future projects. What happened to the rest of the $3 billion? Has it been spent already to a certain degree, Brendan? Have developers got it in their hands?
No, I mean, we're building a large technology business, and blockchain really has the potential to create a new infrastructure for the internet, a secure version of the internet, and that's a tall order. So we've been ramping up our development team. We've doubled the size over the last 12 months. And as I mentioned, we sold these tokens, so they were revenue to the business. So creating too much transparency into everything that we're doing on an ongoing basis can actually take away a lot of the competitive advantage when we're trying to put out new types of technology that allows people to take back control of their privacy.
One of the problems with so many of these blockchain platforms is that nobody seems to be using them for anything. If you look at the number of users on distributed applications, many of the most popular ones are literally like 3 digits, like 100 or 200. Do you see what's going to change that?
Well, I think we're in very early days. As I mentioned, this is it's sort of like we've been building with straw and hay, and now we have cement. So the first things you put together are a little bit leaky, a little bit wobbly, but we know that if we want to build skyscrapers, we need to use cement. And so you have a whole group of developers that are learning very new technology. They're learning how to assemble it for the first time. And you're actually seeing hundreds of projects, whether it's our platform or others, starting to take place. But it's going to take time for that infrastructure to get built, for those business models to get in place, and then for those users to get an adoption. I think that the masses are going to experience blockchain the first time when they find the first product they want to use, when they find an insurance organization that can deliver something at half cost and has more equitable policies for their holders, and they realize that this is a blockchain-based project. So it's going to be that introduction that's going to start to really bring in the masses.
Yeah, Brendan, we hear again and again these CEOs of banks saying, hey, I don't like cryptocurrencies per se, but I really like the blockchain and the technology that underlies it. We see you talk about insurance, but what other applications are you starting to see right here, right now, development on your product, on your protocol, really bearing fruit already?
Well, if you look at what blockchain is, it's really just a secure way to store and transfer data, whereas the internet was a fundamentally insecure way. And you just keep hearing about hackings and data privacy leaks constantly and continually, because in the old world, in the internet world, it's really just an arms race between the organizations and then people up to nefarious activities. Blockchain is going to slowly create a new infrastructure for just about everything, and the technology itself is creating a social movement, a social revolution that's driving new types of business models that align interests where and oftentimes they weren't. They're bringing shareholders and user bases closer together. And the combination of that technology and distributing the value amongst the different stakeholders in a more equitable way is going to lead to new business models that can be autonomously operated by the communities themselves, opposed to a traditional centralized organization with shareholders.
You hinted there, you're talking about the question of on-chain or governance of the blockchain, and EOS was, of course, well known for having a constitution to manage governance of the blockchain. Your own CTO, Dan Larimer, had suggested that that constitution was flawed, it needed to be scrapped. What have you learned so far about getting governance right, and what makes you think that you will be able to sort of find a workable model?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. We actually just published the protocol, the EOS.io protocol ourselves. The EOS public blockchain is just one implementation of that protocol. And our protocol does speak to a set of rules. We call it the Constitution. But we did not actually post or put out a Constitution. So the EOS public blockchain has a Constitution that was created by the community, and they're iterating on it. And we continue to kind of give some advice here and there. But the reality is there won't be one blockchain for all purposes. And different types of governance will tailor to different types of industries. So I think you're going to see lots of different things emerge. At the end of the day, whether you have a constitution or not, when certain things happen, if you look at things like the Ethereum DAO fork, when the whole network had to change directions, it's really just about creating transparency for force majeure circumstances, opposed to leaving that up to a small group of people that are going to make decisions in non-transparent ways.